Breaking news, President Obama announcing the end of America's longest war. The president's latest attempt to end the Afghan war includes keeping 9,800 troops on the ground next year and pulling all but 1,000 out of the country by 2016.
The bottom line is, it's time to turn the page on more than a decade in which so much of our foreign policy was focused on the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. I think Americans have learned that it's harder to end wars than it is to begin them.
Barbara Starr is out front from the Pentagon. And Barbara, you know, obviously he's been trying to do this for a while, but this comes as al-Qaeda is resurgent in other parts of the world. So how will this affect America's fight against terror?
Well, good evening, Erin. Look at it this way. If U.S. troops are out of Afghanistan, what about Pakistan, just across the border, which still, by all accounts, may be decimated, but is the heartland of the al-Qaeda movement? What if U.S. intelligence sees a training camp, or they want to go after operatives with a drone strike, or Pakistan's nuclear weapons fall into the wrong hands? The U.S. no longer will have a base of operations in 2 years out of Afghanistan. This is going to lead to a lot of intelligence questions. How do you take up the slack? Where do you base other troops? Where do you base drones? How do you keep gathering intelligence about what is going on that border? Because the bottom line, Erin, is if those Afghan security forces cannot control the border, cannot control their side of the border, the real risk is that the Taliban and al-Qaeda come back into Afghanistan, and everything is right back where it started.
I know, being there about 18 months ago, that's what everyone was saying was their fear. They thought that would happen. All right, Barbara Starr, thank you very much. And I want to bring now into the conversation Republican Congressman Peter King. Great to have you with us as always, sir. Do you think the president's doing the right thing?
I would say partly. I think it's the right thing for him to maintain forces there. I think it's important for him to try to get a status of forces agreement. Having said that, I think it was a very big mistake for him to be giving a timeline, saying that half the troops will be out by the end of next year and the remaining troops out by the end of 2016. That just gives the enemy the opportunity to plan their strategy. They can either lay back or they could move forward. It gives them the upper hand in determining what to do. Also, the number of troops he has, that he is going to allow to stay there, I don't know if that's sufficient enough. In fact, I doubt it is for us to carry out our intelligence activities outside of Bagram and outside of the Kabul area.
Interesting, though, when you say it may not be sufficient enough. You know, you're someone who, had said a couple of years ago Boko Haram should be designated a terrorist organization. But there was so much focus on Iraq and Afghanistan that didn't happen. People didn't notice what was happening in Libya and in Mali and in other places. Wouldn't this enable the administration to focus on those other places because they're not mired in Afghanistan?
Well, they could have named Boko Haram a foreign terrorist organization, whether or not we were in Afghanistan. And also the reality is we just can't always pick and choose. And that's what bothered me about the president's statement. It's sort of condescending, say Americans are learning it's harder to get out of a war than it is to get in, as if we were in Afghanistan as some sort of lark. The fact is we were attacked, and that's why we were there. And the fact is also that 3/4 of the casualties came when President Obama was the president. And his policy then, when he had the surge back in 2009, again, he announced a deadline at that time, and that also gave the enemy the opportunity to prepare for that.